You guys want to be the most physically capable version of yourself. Strong, explosive, mobile, resilient, less prone to injuries, more capable for life, for everything you need to do. But it's not trained like a bodybuilder. It's not going to failure 7 days a week. It's not push-pull legs. In order to truly do this for life, you need the understanding. Because if you have a doctor and you tell him how to conduct a surgery, he'll know he's got to go in, open this muscle, cut this vein, whatever. But if he lacks the understanding of what he's truly doing and why, the moment something doesn't go according to plan or the moment he encounters an outlier, that surgery's botched because he doesn't understand the why. This is exactly like most people. They see something and they just copy and paste it from Instagram without understanding why. So when their body gives them an issue, when hurdles arise, they lack the understanding to navigate it on their own. That's why in this video, I want to provide you guys the understanding, not just the understanding with training, but the mindset to get lasting results, because fitness is a lifelong marathon. You need to have this stuff equipped for life. So if you're serious, grab a pen, grab a paper, take some notes. This is the first episode of the Capability Blueprint where I'll break everything down for you guys.
All right, guys, welcome to the first episode of the Capability Blueprint. If you guys are here, that tells me you're here to become the most capable version of yourself physically. But in order to do that, we have to understand the first cause of everything. So what is first cause? If you look at these two pictures, we'll start on here on the left. This guy is obviously fat as shit, right? But being fat is the obvious part. It's the outcome or effect of something else, though. That's what people fail to realize. What is causing this? Well, he's fat because he lacks the self-respect and self-love to take care of his body. He lacks discipline within health and fitness. He lacks consistency with his workouts, with his diet. He most likely has an unhealthy relationship with food, and he certainly prioritizes present comfort over future benefit. You'd rather have the dopamine now of eating the bullshit, of sitting on the couch and watching the movie, than the benefit later of the gains of physical health, right? So I want to just hit this home. Being fat is obvious, but what is causing it? Everything internally, right? And then you look at me over here. Being fit is the obvious part. However, it's the outcome or effect of another thing, though. What is causing this? Self-respect and love. I want to take care of my body and have the best body possible. Discipline with health and fitness, right? Consistency with my workouts, with my diet. A healthy relationship with food. And prioritizing future benefit over present comfort. Because even when I don't want to leave the house, even when I don't want to train, even when I don't want to eat healthy, I prioritize my future self knowing that I'll thank myself for it now, rather than choosing comfort now and skipping the workout. Choosing comfort now, eating the bullshit, right? And so what does this tell us? Right? Being fat is the obvious part. Being fit is the obvious part. But this is a projection or a reflection of what's going on internally. So this tells us that our bodies are not the cause of our physique or our physical capability. The mind is, right? Because the standards that we tolerate daily, our self-talk about certain situations, the way we carry ourselves, right? Our standards being, well, can I allow myself to have a workout? Well, I won't allow myself to miss this workout even though I'm tired. Our self-talk, dang, dude, dieting sucks. I really don't like dieting. It's so hard. Honestly, I can't stay consistent with a diet. Versus, dude, I'm the person who diets. In fact, this diet is just healthy eating. And it's so easy because I'm just taking care of my body, right? All these internal conversations, dialogue, whatever. And the way we carry ourselves when no one's watching, when we have no one else to hold us accountable, when it's just us, right? All of this stuff is internal work. It's not stuff you can train with a weight, right? This is the work of our mind that manifests itself within the body. If we have loose standards, if we have negative self-talk, if we carry ourselves with zero accountability, we end up like this, right? If we have high standards, if we have positive self-talk, and if we carry ourselves with accountability, regardless of who's there and who's watching, we look like this. So it's everything internally that manifests externally, okay? It's a mirror. Your inability to forego cheat meals, to train when you don't feel like it, to resist vices, it's not random weakness. It's a reflection of your identity of who you are. And that reflection directly depicts the outcome you're currently in. If you're fat, if you're out of shape, if your muscles are tight, that's all a reflection of your current mental environment because you don't care about yourself enough to correct these things. You don't respect yourself enough to eat clean on a daily basis. How do I know? Because I've been there, right? Where on the flip side, your ability to delay gratification, to forego the cheat meal, to train when you don't feel like it, to resist the vice, the bad habit, it's not random strength. It's a reflection of who you are. And that reflection directly depicts the outcome you're building physically. Look at this example, right? When I got knee surgery, you can see I was at an extreme deficit physically. If you guys watch my Instagram videos, you can see my legs are a pretty strong point of mine. I got some pretty big legs, but I have them because I was at an extreme deficit, and I vowed that this would become a strong point, not a weakness. But regardless, when I got knee surgery, I was broken. My leg looked like a fifth grader's. I couldn't walk normally, couldn't get to the bathroom alone for the first couple weeks, physically at an extreme deficit. But look at this picture. See the grinder here, some backwood wraps, got a bag of weed over here. The real battle wasn't the knee, right? Because with the right system, it's going to grow back. It's going to, have to be consistent, whatever. But the real battle wasn't my knee. It was my mindset. Because to cope with this, I was smoking hella. I was scrolling mindlessly, eating junk food, being lazy, engaging in bad habits, right? So the battle wasn't the knee, it was everything internally, because if I corrected that internal, then the progress would manifest itself externally. Because me engaging in all these bad habits, smoking weed made me lazy with my rehab. Smoking weed caused me to eat a bunch of junk food. Scrolling mindlessly scrambled my brain and it threw me off course, and instead of being consistent, it was easier to be lazy, right? So to change my physical state, I had to radically change my mental state. The old version of me had to die in order for me to flourish. And this journey specifically is where I learned the most about the mental state. I made so much progress when I got sober, when I started journaling, when I started meditating. I got really clear about the outcome I wanted. I was able to reverse engineer the outcome I wanted into daily inputs, and focusing on the mental side helped so much, because this is like your brain's like the pilot and your body is like the plane or the vehicle. So you need to have the proper mindset, because here's the thing. If you give this guy the best fucking plan in the world and a coach who's like up his ass, no homo, whatever, pause, 7 days a week, like telling him to do everything, he'll lose weight, he'll get in shape. But what happens when that coach disappears? What happens when the lights turn off, the curtains close, and it's just him? If you never change his identity internally, it's like putting lipstick on a pig, right? It's still a fucking pig. This guy's still fat. He still has a fat identity, fat tendencies, and he'll revert right back. Whereas if you change his identity, even when the coach is gone, even when no one's watching, even when life gets hard again, you are still that person who doesn't skip. You are still that person who eats healthy. You're still that person who does all of these things. This is the importance of identity. This experience showed me the most about identity, because sure, I could do the rehab, but if I always reverted back to smoking, eating junk food, scrolling, and doing all this bad shit, I would revert back to a poor physical shape. So I had to correct that, right? Because your physique is like the house and your mindset is the foundation. If you don't correct your mindset, you're building a physique on sand, because when life gets hard, when things challenge you, when you want to quit, you'll crumble because you have no mental foundation to back off of. But when you've built that fortitude, you have the toughness, you have the consistency, you have the identity of someone who's disciplined, someone who's attacking every day. That's a stone foundation to build your physique upon, because when life gets tough, you show up. When life gets too easy, you show up. When shit happens to you, when shit hits the fan, you still show up, because it's who you are, right? And every day it's like casting a vote. Your identity is rooted in the evidence of habit and action, right? What you do and how you execute daily is conditioning your subconscious mind to reaffirm that as your identity. It's not a declaration of I'm now this person. It's accumulated proof over time, right? Training when you're tired, that's a vote for future you. If you skip the training, it's a vote for the former version of you. Eating clean, it's a vote for the future version of you, the better version. Indulging in some junk food, it's a vote for the former, right? Every time you do an action, you're telling your brain, this is the identity I'm reaffirming. Whichever identity accumulates more votes, whether it's the future or the former, that's the one that becomes dominant. We want to landslide in favor of the future identity, because only in doing so will you truly be able to build the most capable version of yourself possible, physically and mentally. The physical can't without the mental. The physical is limited by the mental. The mental is the limiting reagent, the limiting factor. You can only improve your physical to the capacity that your mental is, right? And this is a video I could totally dive into on its own rabbit hole, but I want you guys to have this mental foundation to kind of understand where we're headed with the rest of this. But this is the mental foundation you need to understand before actually starting the training. And the training philosophy is this. So I've personally tried just about every training style, bodybuilding, calisthenics, athletic performance, mobility, blah, 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 blah. And I've also rebuilt my body after injuries and surgery. And I learned that no single style creates complete capability, right? It's more of like an infinity stone kind of thing. But there is one principle that actually rang true to me the other day. There's one principle that defines complete capability. Because fitness is a lifelong marathon. There is no finish line until you're fucking dead, right? And we're continuously trying to get better, right? I'm not training for a Super Bowl or a fucking championship game. I assume you guys probably aren't either. We're simply training to be the most capable versions of ourselves for life in this endless marathon of life. So the goal isn't just to get strong as fuck, super quick, explosive, and then just fall off. It's to maintain that, continuously get better, and stay in the game, stay in the race with minimal setbacks. So therefore, this one principle I feel truly defines capability, and that's proactivity. Because if death is the finish line, right, then the only thing that can take us out of the race is really like injury. If you say, oh, life gets busy, then you don't know how to manage your time. You don't have proper structure. If you say, oh, it just wasn't important to me, then you don't respect yourself, right? So the only thing that can really take you out of it is some sort of injury. Therefore, proactivity is the one defining principle of this whole system. Because proactivity says, instead of waiting for an injury to happen, instead of waiting for bad shit to happen, we prevent it beforehand. We prevent things before they appear, right? This is supposed to be deleted, ignore this, but it's having strength to navigate life rather than a situation arising and then all of a sudden you need to outsource that strength or you're lacking that strength, right? Being reactive is responding to injuries, tweaks, and strains as they appear. You don't work out and then you bend over to pick something up and then boom, your back tweaks and now you're out for the count. You don't know how to rehab it. Now you're being reactive. You're in a panic. Whereas being proactive, you train Jefferson curls, you train Zercher deadlifts, you train Gusita good mornings, you have the lower back fortified. So when you bend over to pick it up, even though it's in an awkward position, you're not hurt. And if it's somehow a little strain, it's a little strain instead of you fucking like herniated a disc or did some huge shit, because your spine is either strong or it's not. So if you prepare your spine, you're being proactive. You're reducing the likelihood of injury. You're fortifying your body for any situation life throws at you. When you're reactive, you don't train, you don't fortify your body. So when shit happens to you, you're just like, oh, fuck. And you just have to react. And this is a terrible way to be. You can't prevent life from throwing things your way, but you can make sure you're prepared when bad things do come your way. So it's this principle of being proactive. Okay, let's not only get explosive, let's be proactive in that in the foundational work for being explosive, we're going to make sure that we're preventing the risk of injury, that we're lowering the risk of injury, doing injury prevention work. Let's make sure that we're doing mobility so that if we're only focusing on explosiveness, it's easy to get tight and easy to get stiff. But if we're being proactive, then we're preventing that and we're keeping our body healthy, right? Proactive to me is like maintaining the vehicle. It's like insurance. It's like longevity deposits. It's protecting yourself. Being reactive is not doing any of that. Then you all of a sudden have to fucking, when something happens and then you're caught off guard and then you're just thrown into the heat of the battle without any preparation. What's the one quote? The best soldiers prepare for battle in times of peace, right? Because if all of a sudden you wait until it's war to fucking train yourself, it's too fucking late. It already happened. But if you're prepared for war long before the war even starts, you're ready to go. That's being proactive. So a key distinction you guys need to make heading into this form of training is exhaustion training versus athletic training. One of the biggest misconceptions that I see is believing that the best workouts are the ones that leave you the most exhausted, because that mindset largely comes from the bodybuilding culture, where the primary goal is to fatigue the muscle as much as possible, to stimulate growth, right? On the other hand, though, athletic training and capability training works very differently, because athletes we're not just trying to see how tired we can get. We're trying to improve force production, speed, coordination, nervous system efficiency, joint resilience, power output, mobility, more different qualities than simply growth, than simply muscle growth, growing the tissue, right? We're trying to elicit qualities like adaptive qualities of everything I just kind of listed. But these adaptations come from high quality repetitions with intent, not pushing every set to failure. Because this is a fine analogy. Like if exhaustion alone made someone athletic, marathon runners would be the most explosive athletes on earth, right? And it's another analogy that I've said on my Instagram before is Usain Bolt doesn't run laps around the track till exhaustion to get faster. It's short, intentful, high quality repetitions, adequate rest time in between, because he's trying to get the most out of it each time. So you guys have to realize, like, if your goal is to become the most physically capable version of yourself, right? not just strong, not just aesthetic, like in terms of like how you look, but be able to produce force, be able to absorb force, be able to have mobility, have resilient joints, etc. You have to understand you can't be going to failure every single day of the week, and you don't need to be in the gym every single day of the week. The sweet spot is 4 times a week. That's what I found. If you look at most NFL strength and conditioning programs, it's 4 days a week. NBA, sometimes 3 days a week. At the professional level, it's obviously they're doing their sport too, but the best adaptations come from fewer, higher quality sessions. Okay. The first step in doing so is capacity. So I use this term quite a bit. I think capacity best applies to phase 1, where you guys will be starting. Capacity is your body's ability to handle load, force, position without breaking down. And I built capacity through isometrics, through slow eccentrics. It strengthens your tendons, it reinforces your joints, develops control in deep ranges. This is like the foundation for mobility to be stable and usable. It's the foundation for explosiveness to be stable and usable, right? Without just kind of jumping into things. Because if you don't have the capacity to begin with, like that joint, that tendon can't even handle the load of some mobility movements, can't handle the load of heavy lifts or handle the load of plyometrics, the force production and absorption. You're on a one-way ticket to crashing, aka getting hurt, and just a bunch of issues arising. So we want to build capacity first. Building capacity in phase 1 is characterized by monk intention, meaning slow, controlled, in tune with the movement. A lot of isometric holds to gain activation, eliminate imbalances, promote blood flow, and healing. Isometrics, probably my favorite movement phase of a lift. They've done so much for me. It was like the number one driver of my knee recovery, doing a bunch of isometrics, and it has also been the root of a lot of my athletic breakthroughs. And we can dive more into this into later phases, but just understand for phase 1, it's characterized by monk intention. Monk meaning slow, controlled, in tune, not rushing, not too aggressive. You want to master the movement kind of thing through isometric holds, as well as slow eccentric compounds. So like shoulder press and like slow eccentric, boom. Bench press, slow eccentric. Front squat, slow eccentric. What this is going to do is establish control, eliminate energy leaks. And I talked about this in my phase 1 whiteboard video, but I'll kind of breeze over here. Energy leaks in the sense of through the entire movement, people may have weaknesses or deficiencies in certain ranges of the movement. Because if the front squat starts here at the top, you squat down to here, then squat back up, somewhere in there due to people's different anatomies, different imbalances, different activation, different strengths we consider, there's areas in this lift where you might be leaking energy, where you might be a bit more deficient. But when you express control throughout the entire movement, you're forcing your body to eliminate these energy leaks, to be resilient, and to control this entire thing. And in working on this slow control, you're increasing your force absorption, your body's ability to absorb load, right? You can't have force output without the absorption, right? You can only output as much force as you can absorb. So this also sets the foundation for getting more explosive, okay? And so a big thing with building capacity is this banded isometrics video. I have an entire other YouTube video about this. You guys should go watch it if you haven't yet. Banded isometrics were huge for me. But this is because before diving into deep ranges of mobility, before jumping into weighted plyos, I lived and breathed these banded isometrics. I had to build capacity first before challenging my body with this, because my body wouldn't have been able to handle this deep end range with weight. It wouldn't have been able to handle this explosive plyo, these types of stressors. I first had to eliminate the imbalances, get proper muscular activation in muscles that I didn't really train that much, like my adductors, my hip flexors, my abductors, right? These are the muscles I had always neglected. So it's like, before I could strengthen my hip flexor in this lengthened end range, I had to strengthen it first and build capacity with this banded iso 90 degree, right? Before I put my knee in this deep flexion end range position, I had to build capacity with Spanish squats and TKEs, and those references will make sense if you watch the banded isometric video, but it's capacity before this, right? It's almost like the foundation. So this is the same as like you have a race car, your body, you know how to race, like you know how to do mobility and plyos, but if you jump into the race with a flat tire, aka a muscle activation, a muscle imbalance, an improper activation, whatever it is, like you lack the capacity, if you jump in with a flat tire, you're going to crash and ruin the vehicle even more, right? So capacity must come first. We have to establish that baseline strength. Then comes mobility. Keep in mind, these two are just for phase 1. Then mobility. Mobility is your body's ability to actively access and control full ranges of motion. Once capacity is built, right? Like I built the capacity here in this 90-degree hip flexor position, then I was able to lengthen it, right? So mobility expands those ranges of strength while reinforcing control at like the end. So this matters because it lets your body move efficiently, absorb force, blah, blah, blah. Basically, dude, you're getting strong in typically like what people consider to be typically compromising positions, like positions people don't want to be in, like this full knee flexion, fully lengthened here. People don't want to be here. People feel vulnerable here. But if you're strong here, you reduce your likelihood for injury. You protect your body when you're doing a bunch of intense training. And the key cue here is strength through length, right? So we're not just lengthening the hip flexor and stretching it. We're being strong here and we're requiring strength. That's why it's weighted. And if you think of a Jefferson curl, right? I hold weight because I could touch my toes. Yeah, that's one thing. But mobility versus static stretching, it's static stretching, just touching your toes is like, yeah, I can touch my toes, right? Mobility, like a Jefferson curl in that same position, holding weight, it's like, not only can I touch this position, I can produce force here. My body's resilient here. That's a stark difference. You have to understand it's strength through that lengthened position. Building mobility in phase one is characterized by monk intention. Again, slow, controlled, in tune. And just like building capacity, mobility leverages isometrics. Isometric in a sense of we come down to this fully deep range position and we hold it here. We do an isometric hold there. This demonstrates ownership of that position and it builds tolerance at that end range. And we leverage slow eccentrics to demonstrate control through the full range of motion. I don't just fucking drop down here just like that. It's slowly ease into it. I'm feeling the entire movement, right? I'm recognizing where my body wants to falter. I'm recognizing different weaknesses, whatever different signals my body's giving me. This demonstrates control through the entire range of motion, staying in tune with your muscles the entire time so you can get the best, most accurate read of what your body needs specifically because everyone's different, right? And again, this is another typo. See, the thing with Miro, I'll be like in the middle of making something, and then I don't know if you guys have ever made a Miro board before. It'll glitch, kind of like start loading, and then like whatever I did just goes away. And so I copy and pasted something here. But basically, before doing a bunch of weighted plyometrics, I had to mobilize my body. Think of this as like further building the frame. I had to mobilize my body, had to increase capacity and tolerance at these end ranges to protect my body before producing force, right? Because mobility is kind of after building capacity, but in itself, it is building end range capacity. It's mobilizing your body. It's protecting yourself in compromising positions. Think of this as also like building suspension so that right here, I'm working my ankle mobility, knee, hips, so that if I'm going into some crazy plyometrics or if I'm running in real life, doing something, I am protected in these lengthened positions. I am protected in these vulnerable positions. This is what mobility does, right? Mobility is like the frame of your race car along with capacity. You can have all the horsepower in the world, but if the frame can't handle bad positions, it folds. Mobility reinforces you in the end ranges that most people avoid. It lets you own deeper positions, absorb force there, and stay solid under it. That's what keeps your strength usable, because if you don't have the mobility, and number one, you get hurt, taken out of the game, yeah, your strength's not usable. Number two, if I can only produce force from like a 90-degree back squat and I can't produce force from that full knee flexion, hip flexor fully lengthened, then my strength is useless there as well. And it also keeps you in the game, right? And just with these two, this combination of capacity and mobility, this alone, even if you never did a plyometric, you never did a power clean, whatever, this alone will improve the quality of your life, reduce pain, increase range of motion, increase confidence in a lot of just various positions that people typically avoid, keep your joints and tendons healthy. And this is enough for most folks, right? This was like plenty for me after my knee surgery, after not being able to fucking bend my knee fully or squat fully or whatever. This was amazing, right? It's a level up for a lot of people. But if you're looking to take it a step further, this is the foundation upon which explosiveness, strength, and power is built. This is the frame that handles the engine, right? You can't have the engine without the frame. You're bound to crash, right? You can't throw a V12 on an engine on a car with a broken frame, right? And in terms of implementation, 4 lifts a week. I do upper, lower, rest, upper, lower. So like Monday, Tuesday, rest Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, rest over the weekends, do some cardio, do some yoga, stay active, stay moving, right? 4 lifts a week. This is basically how I structure everything out. An isometric warm-up routine. For legs, always a banded iso that I have on my YouTube video. For upper body, it'll be various different things. Sometimes a banded iso series, sometimes a pull-up iso, push-up iso, whatever. Get blood flow. Isometrics get blood flow to the system, activates everything so that you're ready to go. but it's not enough to just get blood flow. You have to prime your nervous system, because strength isn't just muscular, it's neural, right? Your nervous system and your brain has to provide signals for you to output fast and be explosive. So we do the warm-up routine with the isos to get a bunch of blood flow. Then we prime the nervous system. Med ball slams, some reactive vertical jumps, just a couple reps, high intent reps. We're not murdering ourselves here. This is just to get the system online. So we have blood flow, our nervous system's activated. Now we can get into the session. I like to do a slow eccentric compound. So if we were to frame this like a leg day, a slow eccentric compound, slow eccentric front squats. Boom. Slow eccentric front squat. I'm going to do my slow eccentric front squat, 5 second down, explode up, sit in that full range of motion, and then superset that with a complementary isometric or just a complementary movement. Typically an iso. So like if I do a slow eccentric bench as the compound, I'll do a complementary iso of like push-up iso or a pull-up iso, even better. For this front squat, I might do some banded sissy squats with an isometric hold at the bottom, getting those quads stretched, right? That deep knee flexion. Boom. Then we can get into accessories. This is where you're still taking the principles of this in terms of the principles of isometrics and slow eccentrics, but you're just doing accessory work. So this could be like a spring ankle hold, isometric to strengthen your foot and ankle complex, as well as like a slow eccentric RDL, get like a hinging movement, get some of the posterior chain involved as well. Then you can move into some mobility, whether it's like a slow eccentric Jefferson curl, ATG split squat, whatever. Then you're gonna do some core, a QL raise, hanging leg raise, L sit, whatever, and then an optional finisher of like some burpees, some sled work, whatever it is. It probably feels like a lot of mumbo jumbo, but it's less about what specifically you're doing and more understanding like the framework and kind of why you're doing it. We can get deeper into this in the next video. Within this first video, I just wanted to go over the mindset and the training philosophy. If you guys got some value from this, leave a like, leave a comment of what would be helpful for you guys to see. If you guys are interested in one-on-one coaching, I'll put the link to my Calendly in the description here where you can jump on a strategy call, see if this is a good fit for you. And yeah. Other than that, check out my Instagram. I have a bunch of value I post daily on there. I'll put that in the description as well. And I'll see you guys in the next episode. God bless you all. Love you guys.